Hello, and welcome to FSCJ Online Now. My name is Brandy Bleak. I'm Assistant Director of Educational Technology. We have 6 feet away from me, LMS Admin Robin Reese.
Hello,
and
everyone.
about, 15 feet away from me, Thomas Lewis. He is our moderator for our chat today. And then, 100 miles away, or I don't know where you live, Audrey, but joining us virtually, we have Audrey Ante. So she's our professor that we have asked to join us today to provide that perspective. So thank you for joining us, everyone, especially you, Audrey. We definitely felt like, we definitely feel like it was important to let her join virtually, both for the reasons of we want to keep our distance from everyone, but also just to showcase the tools that we're going to talk about today. So now that we have everyone here and we're joined, we'd like to get started with what we're going to walk you through today. We're going to try to keep it very simple because that's what we need right now. We don't need complicated. Done is better than perfect, and I'll kind of reiterate that theme throughout this broadcast today. First, we're going to just start with the basics of Canvas. Then we're going to go through how to get help. We'll walk you through the online guide that we've created. Then we're going to go through the recommended steps as well as how do you connect with your students. So just to kind of start this broadcast off, I wanted to remind everyone that we recently transitioned to Canvas. So we all, and by we I mean the support staff, the admins, the deans, everyone, we've actually just recently transitioned. Now, although everyone is going to have to do it in a very short time, we know where the pain points were, where people stumbled up. So we've emphasized our resources in those areas, and we know how to help you, the people that are transitioning to online very quickly, we know how to help you through those. So keep that in mind. A quick thank you to everyone in the Center for E-Learning, as well as the Academy for Teaching and Learning, our faculty development specialists, the admins, as well as our team, the TV studio, everyone coming together to get the resources in place so that we are all here to support you as you go through this transition. And then lastly, before we get to the good stuff, I just want to reiterate that you can do this. If we can do this show real quickly, throw this together, Robin and our team threw the guide together very quickly but very appropriately. We can do this. We are all here to support you. Okay, so with that in mind, let's get started with the basics. If someone has never accessed Canvas, and I assume many people, either they might have clicked around when we were kind of testing the system out, but maybe they're not used to just getting there, and when they get there, where the main functionality is. Robin, can you just start with how do you access Canvas?
Sure thing. So the easiest way for you to access Canvas is simply to visit canvas.fscj.edu. Whenever you type that URL into your browser, it's going to prompt you to log in using FSCJ's standard single sign-on, which is using your employee ID number and your password as you would for any other college system. Now, if you're already logged into a college system, you may not even see that login screen. It may simply just drive you right to your Canvas dashboard. Now, if we can show my screen very quickly, I do want to share with everybody what the Canvas dashboard looks like. So this is kind of like your home page within Canvas, and you'll see that there's a blue bar on the left-hand side of the screen that contains links that are the most commonly used ones for our faculty and staff whenever accessing Canvas. And we'll talk about some of these in a little bit more detail as the broadcast goes on. And on the right side, there's a to-do list and a coming up area for faculty. Now you'll see that my to-do list is very well populated with a lot of different links to things. These are actually things that I need to grade within my courses. So a beautiful thing about Canvas is that as your students submit work for grading, it's actually going to appear here on the right-hand side so that you can easily click in and do the grading without even having to visit any of your courses. So you'll see this contains materials from several different courses, and I can simply click in to do the grading there. We'll talk a little bit more about this later on in our broadcast as well. But I do want to just draw your attention to the middle of the Canvas dashboard, where we see a series of squares that are called course cards. Each one of these represents a different Canvas course. And if you're brand new to Canvas, you may find this to be a little bit overwhelming because you're not exactly sure how to identify which one of these course cards represents each one of your courses. Now, we have a very standard way of identifying each course card or course shell within Canvas that should correspond to information that you're already familiar with from my FSCJ. Now, if we look at this very first course card on my dashboard, you'll see that there's a kind of a concatenation of letters and numbers here that represent information that is drawn directly from my FSCJ. First, we have the term of the class. Then we have, oh, I'm sorry. Bear with me, please. We'll go back. So, Canvas is not about perfection. It's about working with what we have. Here we go. So you'll see here, Spring 2019 represents the term of that this course was offered. This is the course designation, right? So this was a training course, AFPD, with the class number 3305. And then this is the class number for this individual offering of the class. All right, so if you're teaching multiple offerings of the same class during a certain term, you may see a number of course shells that have the same information in these three places. It's this one, the last one, where you want to pay attention to the individual class number so that you can ensure that you're looking at the correct course offering for the course that you want to work with. Now, we load students into each one of these classes 3 times a day, perpetually throughout the term, so you don't have to worry about moving your students into these classes at all. That is something that we are doing for you. And if you notice any errors with either a missing course or missing students, you shouldn't, but if you do, this is a situation in which you would want to reach out to us via email or via help desk ticket.
And Robin, I noticed that on the bottom you have the course long name, but up top there's a nickname. How do you provide those nicknames so you can easily identify maybe a Monday, Tuesday or maybe a Monday, Wednesday versus a Tuesday, Thursday?
And this is one of my very, very favorite features of Canvas, as you know. Now, I know not everybody is going to be as much of a Canvas nerd as I am, so please bear with me as I say a million times, this is my favorite feature of Canvas. Let's get back to it. So on the bottom, this is the course designation, and when you first access Canvas, you'll see that this colored line and this gray line will match. They'll have the same information in them. If you want to change this top line to help yourself identify which class this is, all you need to do is click on the 3 dots here. Make sure you're on the color tab and provide your class with a nickname. So let's say that you just want to be able to know which one of your classes is normally Monday, Wednesday, 5 to 8. You would just go ahead and enter that in the nickname box and hit apply. And we'll see that now that top line has changed to reflect what I would like to know this course as. So this is static. You cannot change this bottom line, but this top line can be changed using these 3 dots right here.
It's also very important to know that when you nickname your course, your students also have that ability that your nickname does not show up in the student's nickname area. So they could label the class, this is the best class ever, or I love my teacher, she's amazing. So whatever the students wanted to nickname their course, as well as whatever the instructor wanted to, those areas are individual and only shown to you.
It's a personal nickname, yep.
Perfect. And then my quick question here is, by default, your courses should show up on your dashboard. If you do not see a course on your dashboard, let's show the All Courses button just in case we need to access that.
Okay, so your dashboard is kind of like a series of links to things that you would want to access most easily. That would include courses that you're teaching right now, and then also the to-do list, as I've already mentioned. If you want to see every course that you have ever taught at FSCJ, at least through the summer of 2019 when we switched to Canvas, if you click on the Courses tab here on the blue sidebar and click on All Courses, you'll see a list of all of the courses that you have taught at FSCJ from the summer of 2019 to the present. So, and you'll see they're broken up into your current courses, which I have a very long current course list, your past courses, and if you had future courses, those would be listed down here as well. Now, if you have a good eye, and I'm just going to pause for a moment, you'll see that there are stars here, some of which are filled and some of which are empty. Now, when you start out with Canvas, you'll see that all of these stars will be empty on your courses menu. As you fill the stars, you can designate which courses you'd like to appear on your course dashboard. So these courses for me that have the star filled are the ones that I'm going to see immediately when I log into Canvas on my Canvas dashboard. So that's a great tip as well, just to make things a little bit simpler for you as you're just starting out with Canvas. One of the best first things to do is go to the courses panel, Make sure you have a star filled by all of the courses that you want to be able to access every day or every other day. Once those stars are filled, going back to the dashboard will allow you to be able to see those courses easily.
Thank you, Robin. I'm going to kind of throw out one or two more other points in this section, but I want to throw to Thomas just to say if there are any questions, our team will try to stop in between each section and ask if the audience has any questions. So as I'm kind of stating my last point on this basic section, please throw any questions in the chat box of the live, the window that you're watching us in. If you have any questions about this part, let us know, and then we'll move on to the next part if not. So the last thing I want to say here in the basics, we've talked about how you get to Canvas, how you identify your courses and make sure that they show up there on your dashboard. Will a faculty member who has never taught in Canvas and who is transitioning to online already have a shell, Robin?
They will. So you're going to have what's called a shell for each one of your classes, right? So that this course card represents an individual shell. And then we have actually taken every shell that had no content in it and loaded it with some basic information for you just to make your Canvas transition process easier. So I'm going to click on this course card, which represents what is for me normally a blank course. And as we click on it, you'll see that on the home page, there's a series of what we call modules within Canvas. Okay, modules represented by this box. And these modules have been created by our team in conjunction with the Center for eLearning to help you get started with building out your Canvas course if you are currently in need of a lot of direction. So what we did is we looked to see who had an empty course shell, and if the course shell was empty, we went ahead and loaded this out. If this is not something that you want to have in your Canvas course because you already have a sense of what you're doing, you're welcome to delete this information out by clicking on these three dots and hitting delete on each module, which will get rid of all of this content. But we did want to make sure that we provided you with some basic information so that nobody is going to encounter a completely empty course shell and have that fear of just not knowing what to do and how to get started.
Perfect. Okay, so Thomas, do we have any questions about the basic functionality of getting into Canvas?
We have a few, yes. The first question is, are we all supposed to have course cards on your dashboard?
Yes and no. So if you go to your dashboard and you are teaching a course, you should have courses assigned to you if your name is next to the instructor label, right? So if you do not see anything on your dashboard, go to your all courses section and see if it is listed there. It may be that it's just not favorited. If you do not see the course that you believe that you are teaching this term in your all courses list, send us an email or put in a ticket.
Okay, great. The other question is a little bit early, but do we have Respondus access to help upload tests?
All right, I'm going to throw back and say, hold that question.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. So if there's anything, if there is a question about the section that we're talking about, ask it then. You can throw your questions in there now in advance, but let's see if we talk about the things that we're going to talk about in a moment before you throw in those questions. Are there any other questions about the basic area?
So far, no. Everything is going to be Common Studio, and we'll get to that soon.
We'll get to those. All right, basics, we've got them all done. So you guys are already ready. All right, so now we're going to talk about the meat of this broadcast, why we're all here. How to get your coursework online by Monday. The three things that we're going to cover, again, I kind of threw a little bit of a hint to this earlier, but we're going to talk about that guide that Robin just previewed, the resources that we've provided for you, and how to get your content online. Then we're going to give you a few recommended first steps. If you're just not sure where to go, we're going to say, let's do this, and we'll walk you through that process. And then one of the biggest questions is, if I'm used to teaching face-to-face, how do I keep that connection with my students in an online format? So let's get started with a deeper dive into the Online Now guide. Robin, you've done a lot of work on this, so I'm going to say live, thank you for your work and the teams. So I'm going to let you kind of walk through the basic, let's say, layout or the design of the guide. And also, again, just remind everyone how to get there and who will get there. If they do not have it in their course and they would like it for some reason, they can also show that also.
We'll show it also, yep.
Thank you.
So I've already mentioned that anybody who had a blank shell in Canvas as of last night was given this content in that blank course shell. Now, if you are not a person who had a blank course shell for some reason and you still want to get access to this information, it's actually available in the Canvas faculty community. So prior to going through the information, I just want to share that with everyone. On your dashboard or in your courses list, if you don't see it on your dashboard, you should see a course tile that looks like this, titled Canvas Faculty Community. Now, we've been using the Canvas faculty community for almost a year now to share information with online faculty that's relevant to the online experience. And we just recently put up some information about FSCJ Online within the Canvas faculty community. If you click here, you'll see that you will have access to the Online Now Canvas guide and course template, which is what I'm about to share with you. Later on today, you'll have access to this webinar via the Online Now link. We have some resources for your first weeks in Canvas, including some suggested communications that you can adapt to share with your students to help them figure out how to use Canvas, additional training courses for Canvas, and then a Canvas printable quick start guide that you can print out at home and just leave by your desk as you're beginning to work with the basic features of Canvas. All right, so I'm going to go back to the meet here and show you what this Canvas guide and course template actually looks like. So you'll see here that we have 3 modules for our faculty. Pro tip, if you click on the area just to the side of the name, you can compress those to get them out of your way. And you'll see that we have Faculty Get Online Now, which is a faculty visible only resource with instructions for how to do basic features within Canvas. Then there's a sample Canvas module with sample assignments in it so that you can just copy these pages, assignments, and quizzes as you're building out your course to make it a little bit easier for you to scale up your content really quickly. And then finally, we have a module that is published and available for your students. And this contains a link to a Canvas orientation course for students, as well as some helpful resources for online life that are actually updated as of today for how students will do things like access help for advising, help for getting accommodations or things like that for students who have disabilities. And we'll be including more information in this area in the Course Master as we find out more about how online life is going to change here at FSCJ in the coming weeks. As you all know, if you've been paying attention to OnPoint, there are still some things that are really up in the air, but are being worked out right now. So we'll continue to update this student-centered module with information for students as that information becomes more widely available.
I think a good point to throw in here is there are 3 modules, 2 of which are unpublished and 1 is published. A huge point where it's often overlooked, even by us or the experts that know how to do everything in Canvas. Someone will say, I can't really access this module. I'm supposed to do this test and I can't see it. Publishing content, as well as modules and the whole course, is what makes the content viewable to your students. So we have strategically not published the 2 faculty modules, and we have published the student module. If you did nothing to the online course and your students was there, but you did publish the course, your students could see the course module that we've created titled Students. They could not see the 2 faculty modules. So as you're creating content, don't forget, but you will, and that's okay, but try not to forget to publish each content item when you're ready for your students to view it. Then if you have it in a module, publish the module, and of course, don't forget to publish the course.
Yeah, don't beat yourself up about it if you make some of these mistakes. I did this last night whenever I was making this template for you all, so it happens all the time. The key here is just to be able to figure out how to solve some of those problems and be able to identify them if they happen. So if we can look at my screen again for one moment, I'm just going to share how you can tell if things are published and unpublished before we move on to looking at the course content. Thank you. So you can see here that we have 1, 2, 3 modules. And here in the faculty-only modules, you see this gray sort of circle with a slash through it. The student one has the blue checkbox here. That indicates that this module is published and available to students. These are not published and therefore only available to the course instructor. If you want to make what's called a state change from published to unpublished, all you need to do is hover over the checkbox or the slash and just click on it, and that will change it very easily from published to unpublished.
And then can you show where the course published and unpublished? I read your mind, I can tell.
Here it is, course status, unpublished or published. So this to me was confusing at first with Canvas because you always see both unpublished and published. If the course is published, published will be green. If the course is unpublished, unpublished will be red. So that's a great thing to keep in mind. Now, once your students start submitting work within Canvas, you will lose the ability to unpublish the whole course. So once they start working in there, it has to remain visible to the student. You can, though, unpublish individual content items. Like, for example, if you're going to get 2 weeks of coursework together for your students, and then you want to work on another module, like down here, I'm still working on this, so that I could share it with students in the future. Note that it's unpublished on the module level, so students will not see this until I publish the whole module. And I'll do that as soon as I'm sure it's ready to be shown to my students.
All right, so let's get into that first module where we're talking about getting started in Canvas and how to identify what a page is and how to make an assignment. How do I convert those items to an online format?
All right, yeah, so if you're following along with us, you can see we tried to label this as easily as possible so that you can kind of just find the information that you need. Getting started with Canvas contains some information about how to use this template. All right, and I'm not going to show you every single one of these pages. We're just going to do a top-level view. This would cover how you're going to share information like reading assignments, video lectures, maybe links to things that you want your students to do. Here on a Canvas page, we'll show you what a page looks like in a minute. Here is some information about how to create video lectures that you would then share with a student on a Canvas page. Here is some information about how to upload your files, like handouts that you would normally give to students. This would explain to you how you would actually share those handouts with students using a Canvas page. Right? So all of this information covers how you're going to share information with students, whether that's a video, a file, text, images. All right? All of that can be found in just these three. Then we're going to look at how to create assignments for students, which is basically anything that you want to grade. So Canvas will allow you to upload papers and other files into the LMS, into the system, so that you can easily grade and share feedback back with your students. And then here we have information about how to hand build a quiz or a test, and then information about how to use Respondus to move a test from a Word document to Canvas.
So just to kind of throw in a little bit of, over here, I'm going to throw in some points here.
Do it.
If we wanted to go through each item, we can, or if there's an area where I don't know, maybe I only want to know more information about assignments. Maybe I only want some information about quizzes. We've tried to break these modules down, and keep in mind that although we've created this content very basic, very simple, we've added a little area in some of the sections that, are you an overachiever? So I've got this part, but I need to know a little bit more. We've tried to push those in each of the pages. And then another thing that I want to throw out that I know really helped me when we first started to transition to Canvas was that I remember you holding up your hand and there's like 5 learning items, is that what they were called?
Yes.
So how are they broken down? Let's just throw those out there because that was a fundamental thing that I needed to understand before I started working Canvas.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let me just say first, there are 5 different content types in Canvas that you can use. Yes. You are under no obligation to use all of these, just as you're under no obligation to look at the information I put in your course or use any of it, right? So we just want to make sure that's clear. But for your information in Canvas, you do have 5 options for what we call a content type. Right? The first is the Canvas page, which I've just described to you. Basically, a page consists of a really flexible container, almost like a Word document, that can consist of text, images, videos, links to documents, really anything that you want to share with your students that's informational, that will help them to learn, would be contained within that Canvas page. Right? The second most important Canvas content type is the assignment. The assignment consists of any kind of graded work that isn't timed and that isn't assessment, like final assessment style, right? So this might be a term paper, it might be a project, anything like that is technically considered an assignment. The discussion board would be the next Canvas content type. A discussion board we would consider as optional. If you would like to use the discussion board, you can. It's basically a way for a faculty member to kind of like throw out an idea for the students and ask them to discuss that idea over the long term through a back and forth. So you're probably familiar with the discussion type, but it's just a way for students to have conversations amongst themselves within the LMS. The last content type is the quiz. So the Canvas quiz consists of anything that you would like to have as a final assessment. So for example, if you want to have a proctored testing or a final exam or a midterm exam, all of those different types of assessments are technically called a quiz. I know a quiz sounds like a little like no big deal, kind of a little thing that you might hand out like every day or something. Canvas, the LMS, refers to all assessments that have multiple questions with the option to time as a quiz. So a quiz is an exam as a test. And I've forgotten about something.
Announcements? Is that a thing? No, I don't know.
Oh yes, of course, the announcement. Thank you, that's the final content type. So the Canvas announcement is a way for you to kind of blast information out at your students and they will receive it on their end. So it's a little less passive than a page. A page is something that lives within the course to provide information. Announcements are things that are going to appear for your students on their dashboard, and then they'll also, if the student has this set up correctly, they will also be sent to the student via an email so that whenever you send that announcement out, the student is going to get an immediate notification that you have something important to tell them and that you've told them via Canvas announcement.
This is a great time to mention your students are learning at the same time that you are. So as you're learning how to move content online, most of the students decided or elected to not take an online class, and now they're being forced to. So just to kind of reiterate, everyone is in this together. They're gonna be learning at the same time you are. So just to kind of throw that information in there. We have-
Can I interrupt about?
Yes, definitely. Audrey, please.
Oh, I'm so sorry I interrupted. Randy,
Please
you want to
do,
finish
please
what you were
do.
going to say?
No, basically just that, you know, keeping in mind that everybody's in the same boat and we're just gonna all kind of float along as well as we can. Audrey, what you got?
I just wanted to mention for faculty who are accustomed to picking up assignments in class and then writing on those assignments and then giving them back to students, to make it easier on yourself, you need to rethink how you give feedback to your students. SpeedGrader allows you to put comments directly on certain types of assignment submissions, and you might want to think about using Canvas Studio to record a review of an exam or a review of homework so that you can share that link with all of your students, as opposed to trying to collect all of their submissions, print them out, write on them, scan them, and upload that to each individual student. As much as possible, try to save some of that time for yourself and think about how you can maybe change your approach to giving students feedback and grading.
No, that's a great point, Audrey. And it kind of transitions into the second half of the full module. You know, we kind of talk about those individual content types. The bottom part is more about SpeedGrader. How do you hold virtual office hours and courses? Some of the tools that are in Canvas, and we'll go into those a little more in depth a little later in the broadcast, just in a few moments. We'll get there real quickly. Is there anything else we want to kind of highlight in this module before I kind of ask questions, before I ask for some of those to be sent in, which will answer some of the things that we're going to talk about?
Yeah, so I just want to cap all of this first little bit off with just sharing the fact that these areas in the first module deal with building your course, right? Creating your course content. So you have the choice which of these types of content you'd like to create. But there is information here to help you get started with all of these things really easily. Right? And should we show the sample module now as well?
Yeah.
Or would you like to
Go
wait?
ahead.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that. And then we'll come back to talking about these things that I would consider to be more in the space of course delivery as opposed to course building, right? Like how you're going to talk to them once you have the course set up, how you're going to grade their assignments, things like that.
And this is a great time to plug the Center for E-Learning as well.
Yeah.
We've taken a lot of their resources, or they've given us a lot of their resources, and we took them, as well as some of the content that we created to transition to Canvas. We've taken some of that and applied it to this current unprecedented situation so we can best guide you through this process. The sample module that we're about to go over is very similar, or in theory, it is the course builder, or what the cell has created for other instructors in the past, just if they want to take a sample course, an online course, and fill in their own content. So we've taken that idea and applied it to our current situation. Just gonna plug the cell again. They do, whether it's in this time or in the future or in the past, they do have course masters. So if I was interested in teaching an online class and I didn't know what an English 101 course was supposed to look like online, they probably have a course master for an English 101. I don't know if do we do 101 or do we do 100 here? I've went to so many colleges. So they have sample courses that you can take and change, or depending on your role, that you can actually just use their content. This may not be the time, if you're teaching an A session, you're probably not gonna grab, you might not grab a course that was created by someone else, but maybe a C7, or moving into summer, this might be an opportunity to just see what the cell offers. Just to throw that plug in there. Anything to say on that?
They do have ENC 1101. Most of the major credit courses they do have available, but you can reach out to them. You know, I would say for ease, reach out to us since you already have our email address, and we can forward it to them if needed.
Completely. So let's take a look at that sample module. Why is it there, and how, as a faculty member transitioning, can I easily use this to fill in my own content in this structure?
Okay, yep, so we were just looking at this huge module up here with the instructions. Just below that is something called the faculty sample module. So this consists of just a sample module, so you can see what a module looks like, and then a sample page, a sample assignment, and a sample quiz. So it says here, sample page, click 3 dots to edit, name, or duplicate. So what I'm attempting to tell you here is that if you click on these 3 dots over here, you're gonna be able to edit the name of the page or duplicate the page. So I'm gonna start by duplicating the page, all right? So that now I have this second sample page, and I've already started creating a module below. So I'm literally gonna take this sample page and I'm just gonna push it all the way down here to my fancy High Renaissance module that I am working on creating for my students. All right, so now my sample page, right? I still have that sample one up here so that I can preserve this if I wanna copy it again. But now I'm gonna come down here to this sample page that is the duplicate. I'm gonna click on the 3 dots, and I'm gonna go ahead and rename it by clicking edit. And I'm gonna title this one, Raphael, the sweetest painter. Let's spell things correctly. All right, so you can see now in my High Renaissance module, I have a page for Leonardo, a page for Michelangelo, and now this new page that I've made for Raphael. I want to edit this new page that I've just created, so I'm going to click on the name, and it's going to open up this window, all right? So you'll see, now I have, because this was copied from the sample, it contains some instructions for faculty that you can obviously read on your own, but it notes that you can edit this by clicking the edit button in the top corner. So if we click edit in the top corner, we can change our title. We're gonna go ahead and delete out some of this information that's here. Whoops. I'm having all kinds of mouse problems today. All right. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add whatever information I want to. So the idea here is anything that I want my students to know about Raphael is gonna be right here in this page so that they can see it. And that might be, please read pages 456 to 58 in Gardner's Art Through the Ages, right? So they know they have to do this reading assignment, all right? It might be, please see your paper syllabus for the reading assignment, right? Because they still probably have that paper syllabus that you gave them. So you might either put the actual reading assignment in here or just remind them, hey, the things you need to know are in your syllabus, all right? Maybe I have a handout that I want to share with them about Raphael. So very quickly, sharing handouts is super easy. What you would want to do is either type the title of the handout, or please view this handout about Raphael. Right. Then you can go ahead and hover over that text come over here to what's called the sidebar, to the Files tab. All right. And now I can either look for files that are already in the course, or I can go ahead and upload a new file at the bottom. All right, now, never fear if you're not following me. These exact instructions are in the module that contains the course instructions, so you have all this information at your fingertips. I'm clicking Choose File, and I'm going to go ahead and find that Raphael PowerPoint that I wanted to share, and I'm going to go ahead and click Open. You'll see that now it's linked here on the side, and I'm just going to hit Upload. So it's going to upload. You may have noticed that this area turned yellow, and now it's a blue hyperlinked text, so that my students would be able to click on this and download that handout about Raphael.
Don't forget at the bottom to save and publish if you're ready, or save. That's definitely another step that I remember in the beginning, kind of, I've done all this work, and then I must save my work. Always a golden rule.
Yes, I'll say it. I said it before, I'll say it again. I am the queen of saving and not publishing. So.
Yes. So that was a really good walkthrough of just the basics of editing a page, using the rich content editor, which there is information about within our guide, and how to just add content, how to add your lectures onto the page so that your students can access them. That's kind of a basic of Canvas, just editing within the content to provide the information that you do face-to-face in an online format. I'm going to ask Audrey to chime in if she has anything on this section, and if not, we're going to go to Thomas for some questions on this portion.
I would just emphasize to keep it as simple as possible. Whatever materials you intend to give your students in class, put those materials in your page and encourage your students to communicate with you so that if something is unpublished and you're telling them, don't forget to do this assignment or don't forget to read this material, they don't feel afraid to tell you, hey, I can't see it, it's not available. That would just be the only thing. Like, keep as much consistency and continuity as possible.
Great point.
Very, very.
We're going to go to Thomas for questions. The next thing we'll talk about are going to be the recommended first steps. So just to kind of give you a preview, but Thomas, throw me some of the questions that maybe can reach everyone. If there's any individual ones, I'll kind of plug here that you can always email us and we'll have a discussion board after this. But what type of questions are people asking, Thomas?
We have a lot of great questions, and thank you everyone else who's really helping out answering the chat as well. We really appreciate that. So where do we find this online guide for future reference?
Perfect. We covered this in the beginning, but it's in two places. So if you are an instructor who has an empty Canvas course shell, which is probably someone who was not using Canvas before but might need to now, it will already be within your empty Canvas course shell. If you haven't even made it there yet and you just want to go find one place, it should be in your Canvas faculty community. Robin, let's show that again one more time.
Yep.
So on your screen, you'll go to Canvas. Again, access it via the URL, and then when you get to your dashboard, you should see the Canvas faculty community. If for any reason you don't have access to the faculty community and you don't have an empty course shell, then email us and we'll figure out why. Those are going to be very few and far between in my experience, because everything is as likely as I would like to say that Robin and I just sit around and push buttons to make everything work, everything is automated. So all of the data comes over through my FSCJ. Robin, anything on that? Like, we don't actually do everything. Anything on that? Robin does a lot, but maybe not everything. So everything is done through my FSCJ is kind of my main point, that it is done. We don't decide who gets it and who doesn't. We've made a few decisions through the empty course shell process, but overall, everyone should have what they should have.
Yeah, yep. As a contingency, always, every course that is created within my FSCJ has a course shell. Even if it's a 5-hour course that's just happening on a Saturday afternoon, it has a course shell. So everyone should have a course shell. It's true that I'm not like a little hamster in a wheel, making all these courses for you all the time. But if you do have a problem, I'm very good at figuring out what it is. So please feel free, whether it's you just don't know or you're sure that there's an issue, please reach out to us. There's no reason for you to feel like you need to figure this out on your own.
Yeah.
You do not. And actually, can I ask, can we go back to showing my screen just so that I can show, again, where in the Canvas faculty community we would find this course template? So when you enter the Canvas faculty community, you'll see FSCJ Online on the top. And then once you're in this page that says FSCJ Online Now at the top, you're going to click here, FSCJ Online Now, new Canvas guide and course template. And that will send you directly to the Faculty Get Online Now guide if it's not already loaded into your course shell.
All right, Thomas,
Thank you.
what else you got?
Okay. All right, the next question is, how do instructors copy selected parts from the template to their Canvas course shell so that they may already be partially prepared with this content?
Great question. Robin?
How would you copy just pieces of it to your course shell? I would say, so I guess I need a little bit of clarity. If it's already in there, you could just delete out the things that you don't need. If you are an instructor who just wants to adopt this because you don't have it in your course shell right now, but you'd like to use it, what we are going to do after this broadcast is put it up in the Canvas Commons. So we may want to talk about Canvas Commons now, or we may want to put that off until the future.
I would say if you have questions and it's not where you would like it to be, reach out to us so that we can either start a discussion board on how to walk through that process. I'm trying to make sure everyone just has the simple, basic ways to get their content. Commons is let's say an overachiever, what we're calling it the next steps. So if you're just learning the basics, don't worry about Commons unless you need to use it. It's a great tool, but just not yet. That's what I would say. And
Fair
if
enough.
it is someone where you already have a course shell, so we did not load the content into that, and you don't access it from the faculty community, but you'd still like it, we'll find a way to get it there. Just shoot us an email.
Okay.
What else you got, Tom?
All right, next question is, will we be able to go on campus in our classroom to film content for Canvas, or do we have to complete this 100% remotely?
This is a great point to say that we are the ed tech team and we are not answering any business rules if we don't know the solid answer. So I would say check with your dean if there are any rules around being on campus or not. I think I know, but I'm not going to throw out the answer. What we can do is help you when you are transitioning online. There are almost always technology ways to do what you're trying to do. Whether they're great or okay or complicated or simple, that's where we're going to try to figure out right now. There are tools that we support. There are additional resources that have been made available from other companies. Use what you know, and if you cannot use that, that's when you'll need to step to either putting in a ticket or contacting us so we can help you get that face-to-face content or activity into an online technology-driven format.
Okay.
Can I interject as well, Brandy?
Yes, please.
Just in case the question was coming from a place of like someone who uses a whiteboard heavily in their course.
Yes.
If you can see, the camera is showing the office that I'm in my house. If you have a small whiteboard at home, or if you have some of the large easel Post-it notes, you could still utilize a camera. There's Studio and Canvas that can let you do videos through webcam. You can also, through Canvas conferences, which I know the team is going to get to in a little bit, record, if that is your strategy for teaching. If you don't have those resources or those tools, you could also ask some of the FDSs whether or not they might have a small whiteboard that you can borrow and use in your home, or if they might have one of those Post-it note easels that you can take home.
Great point. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the tools you can use after this next section. Thomas, one or two more questions at this point. Anything good?
I think some of these other questions can wait until after we go over conferences in studio.
Perfect. So the next small section that we're going to throw out to everyone is just our recommended first step. If this is overwhelming, and we can completely understand how it is to us, and we're kind of the Canvas experts, right? So if it's overwhelming, what should you do first? Before you think about how to make, the next 6 weeks of content, what I'm going to say is just to worry about next week. So get ready for Monday. Take it 1 week at a time. So Robin, what is the best way for someone to just address that next week, and how do they build content for each week thereafter?
That's a really good question. And I think if you take this approach, hopefully you'll start to find it less overwhelming, because it's going to break up that big task into tiny little chunks, which is really what we need to do. So if we can show my screen again, I think I was just sharing with you all this module that I had created called Week 1 High Renaissance. So this is going to contain all of the materials that I would normally be sharing with my students during this week of class. We do think that organizing your units like this is going to be the best way. So I would say the first thing you would want to do is look at your syllabus as it already exists and use any unit or week driven calendar of activities that you already have in place and use that as the tool for driving how you're going to create these modules. So if you have a calendar of activities that refers to each week and gives your students activities that they would do each week, then make sure you structure your Canvas course in that way as well. If it's structured as units, go ahead and structure those modules as units. This kind of has a dual purpose in the sense that it's going to make it easier for you to figure out how to wrap your mind around this challenge, and it's also going to allow your students to understand the connection between where you were face-to-face and where you're going online. So I definitely think that that would be the best way. Of course, if you disagree with me and you think that you have a different way of doing it, or if in the course of this work you find that this isn't working for you, go rogue, do it. Do whatever you think is best, and that can change as you're building out this course.
Yeah, we're just trying to give people that aren't sure what to do that first step. Here's what you could do, and as Robin said, as you're building it, you're going to figure out the flow or the vibe that you work well with, and then therefore your students will work well. Keep some consistency. If you're already doing it chapter by chapter, or week 1 is this and week 2 is this, keep that flowing just in that online format. All right, so those are our first step recommendations. Any question about that specifically, Thomas? Nope. Kind of a short chunk. The next thing is a really, this is probably one of my favorite things in Canvas, some of the tools that integrate. How you can take these outside ideas, like Skype has been thrown around a lot, Zoom, and let's say YouTube. Take the things that you already know and put them within Canvas, and we've got some tools that will make, in my opinion, everything a little easier to keep that connection going with your students. So how do we connect with our students in an online format? Some people figured it out and are really great at it. Some people do the minimum, but I think there's a balance in which we can use the tools that we have to accomplish some of these goals. And Audrey, feel free to chime in with this as well. But Robin, let's start with just going over the basics. Conferences. So conferences is similar to a video conferencing tool that you might already be familiar with. What I'm going to preface all of this section with is, if you know how to use a specific tool that we don't mention, go with that. If you're familiar with something and you're really good at some other tool that we don't support and it works well in whatever way you're trying to use it, do that. If you're not sure, however, conferences is where I would start. Conferences is built within Canvas. It doesn't need an integration and you don't have to go outside to get it. It also is a little more simple to use than WebEx if you've never used either one. If you like WebEx and have used it a lot within your time here at FSCJ, you can use that, and we'll talk people through that separately. But we're going to focus on conferences today because it's built within Canvas and you don't need to do anything extra to work within it. Show us a little bit of a preview for conferences.
All right. So on my screen, you'll see that we have what is called the course navigation menu within the Canvas course. There is information about this in more depth right here. But for now, I'm just going to draw your attention to this link called Conferences. If we click on Conferences, and we're going to go ahead and start a new conference by clicking the plus conference button. Right? What this is going to do is it's going to open up basically a web conference that's only available to you and the students who are enrolled in this class. They're going to receive a notification whenever the conference is started to let them know that you've begun a conference within Canvas Conferences. And you can actually use this as a place to hold regular classes at a regular time if that's something that you'd like to do. Now,
I think that's, I'm going to steal the show just for 30 seconds here, and I think I might even ask Audrey to chime in on this from an instructor perspective. If you currently teach from, let's say, Mondays from 2 to 3, why don't you consider doing office hours or a conference during those same time? In theory, your students are available during that time. Now, they might not be because of their circumstances, but the 2 to 3 time could be a time in which you open a conference, you lecture, or you use a whiteboard, or you deliver your content in whatever way that you're familiar. And then you record that session so that you could post it within your online course, and students that are not available could watch it at a later time. Audrey, do you have any opinion or any perspective to share on that?
Of course. I am actually planning to use that approach. You'd want to make sure if you are recording a course meeting that includes a lecture, that you let students know if they can't join, that they can access that recording for 14 days, because Canvas does not save it beyond that. If you're trying to model what you do face-to-face, that should be fine. They wouldn't have a recording of a class meeting if it were on campus. But I also want to emphasize the importance of revising how you tell students they participate in your course. So some students have children at home and they may no longer be able to join your class at 8:30 a.m. Mondays and Wednesdays. So let them know what alternatives are available to them, and let them know by what point you would have expected them to view the lecture if they have to view it asynchronously. Also, keep in mind, some students may have different qualities of internet. Some students may be using their phone. It may be really difficult for them to join a conference, or they may not have the data bandwidth to fully participate in a conference. Have some ideas for what you want to advise them to do in those cases. We will be our students' sources of troubleshooting, and that for some faculty may be difficult if you're using a new technology. So just think of what options you want to have for your students in case they can't join a conference.
Thank you. That's a great perspective. And again, this is just why we can share our perspective because we're the admins and we kind of get in behind the scenes, but having that faculty perspective is invaluable, very valuable. So to kind of move forward through conferences, will you show me how to create a virtual office hours? And I'm going to emphasize the ability to schedule that time. I kind of tried to practice this with our team, and we're going to try to set this up that we'll communicate that in a little bit. But if you wanted to have an open conference, you could, but you would have to be part of that the whole time. So if you set it from 3 to 9 p.m., you got to be sitting there ready for your people. How can you schedule time to use that virtual office hour?
Okay, that's a good question. So I think we'll start with showing you how to use the conference tool within Canvas, and then we'll move on to doing the scheduling, because I personally love the scheduling. That's something I'm really nerdy about.
Is it your favorite feature of it?
Yes. All right, so we're picking up where we left off, and you'll remember that I clicked on the conferences link over here in Canvas, and I hit the plus conference button. This window popped up to start my new conference. I'm titling it Week 1 Conference Monday Class, your choice. Here we have some other things we need to set up. If you'd like the conference to last for just the length of your course time, you can make that duration change here. Maybe that's 45 minutes, maybe it's 360 minutes if you like that. If you want to be available for 6 hours, that's what you would do. I'm going to do 60. Here you'll see you have the option to enable recording for this conference, so you can go ahead and click there to enable recording.
And I think it's important to say here, not to cut you off, but yeah, clicking it there allows you to record it or decide not to, right? So you could choose to enable the recording once you're in there. If you don't check it, you can't change your mind later.
So that is definitely an important thing that, as we continue on, I'll continue on with that thought. Here we're just enabling recording for the conference. We're not saying that we are going to record the conference. Perfect. That's a very good point.
And I just want to answer briefly as well.
Sure.
Make sure to tell your students if you are recording a web conference that you are recording the conference, so that if they have questions that are of a private or personal nature, they need to ask you potentially privately during office hours or over the phone, just so that they know. Make sure they're aware that it's being recorded.
Good point. Very good point. All right, here, this option would allow you to just leave the conference open forever. If you just want to have a space to meet with students over time, that would be an option. And I think one of the sort of problems with this is that when your students join the conference space, you are not going to be notified of that. But if you do want to just leave this open for a long period of time, you can definitely do the no time limit conference. And then you might pair this with the scheduling feature that I'm going to share with you in a minute, to kind of create some scenario in which your students can sign up for appointments within conference. All right, down here on members, you're either going to invite all the course members or you're going to say, no, today I just want to meet with one student. So this would just send a notification to the 1 or 2 or 3 students whose names you've checked. All right? Or if it's for everyone, then it's for everyone. All right? Then you're going to click update, and you'll see that now a new conference is appearing here within the conferences panel. Now, you'll notice you still have to click start in order to start the conference. So you can use this to schedule a whole bunch of conferences for, maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then just start them when you're ready to start them. And then finally, if you do need to delete them for any reason, you can do that over here with this little gear. All right, we're getting started. I'm going to be the only one in this conference, so please bear with me. Microphone and listen only are your 2 options. Normally, I would say it's great to instruct students to start with listen only so that they're not talking over each other or creating feedback. So if you are in a position to give your students that instruction, I think that's a really good one. And now you'll see over here on the side of the chat window that's opened is a list of the users who are in the course. Right? You also have a chat area here so that you can chat with students without talking. So, it's only me in here, but we're going to go ahead and pretend like someone else is in there with me. So I'm going to click hi everyone, and it's going to show up there. A nice thing to start with is, can you hear me? And then they can let you know, let me know in the chat. All right. So then they'll let you know if they can hear you or not. All right. This chat can also be used to just chat with, you can save it, right? You can save it if you want to share it with each other or with students. If there were other people in this course, I would also be able to open up a non-public chat with just one individual. So that option would appear here. Right? And then over here in the users panel, if we click on this gear, this is a way that we can control what our users are doing. And then also create breakout rooms, which I'm not going to go into today, but there is information in our little course master, our course template about how you might do breakout rooms in Canvas conferences if you want to have your students working on group work within Canvas conferences. All right. I've minimized that chat panel, and now I'm just going to share with you a few other things. Down here at the bottom, these are ways that you can join with audio with your webcam or sharing your screen. I'm currently sharing my screen already, so I'm not going to mess around with this too much, but I will share my webcam very quickly if I can.
And I think this is a good time to say, people are not beautiful, Robin. Beautiful.
I know. Look, we're in a green screen.
Please don't get caught up on images behind you. Like, people don't care about that right now. We care about the engagement and the connecting with the students. Video is a great way to do that. They're used to seeing your face in the face-to-face courses. The online courses need a little more interaction in those ways. So conferences, consider showing your video, whether it's recording a video to say, hey, this is me, this is what we're going to do now, or while you're doing your lecture, show your video. Don't just choose the audio version at this time. I just think that would be an extra step that will count so much in a way that doesn't take a lot more work. You have to brush your hair and maybe put on a shirt. But other than that, I think it's a really simple way to get that connection back in an online format that you're not used to and your students aren't used to.
And it's awkward the first few times, but it does get easier.
Yes.
All right.
If we can do it, you can do it.
All right. Now, this area in the middle provides basic instructions for how to use Big Blue Button. And then you can also actually use these little toggle buttons next to it to create a blank whiteboard. So the first slide in this preloaded presentation gives you information about Big Blue Button, and then you can hit the next slide button down here to get a blank whiteboard. And your whiteboard tools are actually over here. So this little thing that looks like a hand being held up, if you click there, you can actually type on this whiteboard. You can draw on the whiteboard with a pencil. You may have noticed when I pulled out the pencil, I got some other options here, right? You can use text. You would play around with this to figure out exactly what you need before you did the conference, or if you like working on the fly, you might go ahead and just do it while your students are in there. That's up to you. Once you need to undo everything to clear, you simply hit undo annotation.
And again, just to reiterate, these instructions are there within the guide, and we also have blog posts and We've got so many resources. Just again, we went through this transition very recently, so we've built all of this. We were ready for this, even though we didn't know it. We've got some of the resources pulled in from what we've already created, and we can show you how to do the specific cases on a case-by-case basis if you want to email us. The overview that Robin's providing is just kind of a catch-all. This is what you need to know how to use the tool. Do you want to take a look at scheduling the virtual office hours, and then we'll move on to Studio, which is another favorite feature in Canvas. Yeah.
One more tiny thing about conferences. So just one other thing, you can do multi-user whiteboard here, so that like if you want to, and sorry math people that I'm about to break your heart with my lack of math skills, but let's say you want to do like a nice 2 + 2 and have your students answer that really challenging math problem for you, you could type this out as well. Turning on the multi-user whiteboard would then allow them to answer the question, and it would tag the user who has completed that information. One last thing, you can also upload your own presentations here into Canvas Conferences. Like for example, if you usually show a PowerPoint in class and you want to show the PowerPoint and narrate over it because that's what's comfortable for you, you're going to go ahead and hit this blue plus button and choose Upload a Presentation. And then you'll see that you can simply upload your presentation here. Now, time for another really quick tip. If you do want to use a PowerPoint in Canvas Conferences, we definitely recommend that you export that as a PDF first, because it cuts down on the file size of it and it will enable you to easily upload and move through it, all right? So, and if you need instructions for how to do that, we can definitely provide those as well. All right.
And then one more last thing. Sure. At the very top of Robin's screen there's a Start Recording button. That is where you enable the recording if you would like to record your session.
Thank you for that.
Yes, of course.
So yes, you do need to do that and make sure that you start the recording, and then you'll see it will start to count down. And then you can pause it if you want to, and then resume.
All right, so we've got the conference. How do I schedule some time to conference with my students?
Yeah, this is great to me. Great stuff. So what you would want to do is use the Canvas calendar over here to do the scheduling. So the Canvas calendar is on the blue global navigation bar on the side, and it's loading up right now. This contains all of the due dates for all of your courses, as well as any special events that may exist within the course. So both students and faculty have a Canvas calendar. And as you're adding assignments and events to your course, they're automatically going to be populated on this calendar, as well as being populated on your students' calendar. So it's a really great tool. All right, I am going to go ahead and hit the plus button here to create a new event. And you'll see that I have a couple of options. I can add an assignment from here if I want to, or add an event like a meetup that I want my students to participate in, maybe in conferences. But this last option, appointment group, to me is super cool, right? So I'm gonna hit appointment group, and you'll see that I have all of these new fields that have appeared. I'm gonna call my appointment group Week 1 office hours, because I'm gonna use this to allow my students to sign up for office hours appointments. The location could be Canvas Conferences within the course. Right. And then I'm going to select a date here of when I want this to happen. So maybe I'm just going to do it, the 25th from, and you'll see it's giving me some instructions for how to set my time, maybe from 12 o'clock, which is 12 o'clock p.m. to 2 o'clock. So make sure you've got your PMs and AMs correct, all right? And then, so this is the time range that I'm going to be available to have appointments with my students. And then here I'm going to decide how long do I want to meet with them. Do we want to do 30 minutes? So I have 4 appointment times. Do I only want to meet with them, let's say, for 10 minutes each? Right? Or maybe I just want to do 15, right? Hitting go is going to go ahead and make those appointments there for the students. Right? So you can see it's broken it out into all of the various appointment times. And then here, I have some other options before I finish this and publish it. If I want to just have one-on-one meetings, then I'm going to limit the time slot to 1 user. Maybe I want to meet with 2 or 3 students at a time. If I need to kind of maximize my time, that's an option, right? And then here, if you want students to see who's signed up for the time slots that are still available, like for example, if you need to have like 3 students that are in a group, you want them to see who's already signed up so they can make sure they sign up with the people who are in their group, you would do that, all right? And then once you hit publish, make sure you select the correct course, right? So the calendar here, you want to make sure that you're assigning this to the students in the correct course. And then we're going to hit publish. All right. Now you'll see that I have all of these assignments on my calendar for these week 1 office hours. And as students sign up for them, they'll begin to be able to be clicked upon, right? So you can see as I click on there, it's going to say week 1 office hours. It's going to tell me how many slots are still available. And then if I click on group details, I can edit the whole group of appointments at one time. All right.
Perfect. I really like this feature because it's a way that your students can select when, from the office hours that you've supplied or provided, they can select when it's convenient for them. So in this time where people maybe don't have the traditional schedule that they're used to, if you offer different office hours than you're used to or whatever is convenient, they can select what works well for them from the office hours that you're providing. So just kind of a preview, our team does plan to do this. We will communicate that probably tomorrow or Friday, just depending on when we set everything up. For now, just shoot us the emails and then we'll schedule one-on-one virtually so that we can assist anyone that's needed. Before we get to Studio, I was going to kind of go to Studio first, but are there any questions, Thomas, that you're getting just on the conferences portion or anything about that virtual connection with the students?
Yeah, we have a few. Okay. The first question is, am I allowed to use the pen tool in conferences not using the mouse, such as using a pen tool on a tablet?
Yes, you can. And we would probably hesitate to give really specific instructions about that here because everybody has different hardware that they're using. But if you have a tablet or a slate, you should, and it's like plug and play, like uses a USB, you should be able to easily use a USB. There are other things also that you might be able to do if you have like a mirroring program so that you can use your tablet. You can also use that with conferences. We may need to probably deliver some more instructions about some of those options, but please reach out to us if you have problems with that and we can address those individually for each individual user.
Right.
Okay. And the next question, bear with me for a moment, there is quite a bit.
No worries. Thank you everyone that's joining us too. Let me just throw that out there. And let me give a special plug because I'm kind of going between emails. Thank you to John Wall for helping answer some of the questions and promoting the event and all of the administration. But all right, Thomas, what else you got?
All right. In terms of proctoring, how do I use conferences as to proctor tests to one or more students?
All right. Another great question that I'm going to say not ours to answer because I don't know if there's quite an answer right now. Robin, unless you have any other information, I don't think we've got an answer on the broader question about proctoring. If the decision is to use conferences to proctor, it's kind of an option. Do you want to walk through that or do we want to leave it as a we don't know yet?
Yeah, so let me say, I know that your assessment center managers and staff, as well as Rich Turner and his department, are working really hard to figure this question out for you. Really, really hard. So I'm sure they'll have information for you very soon. They have every intention of helping you to continue to do proctored exams as an institution, but it is possible to proctor an exam through Canvas conferences or any other web conferencing tool. It's not as good as using a proctoring program, but I think I've had this question before from some faculty, so I'm assuming that maybe it's out there somewhere, in the internet, on the internet. What I would say is if you want to do something like that, what you would do is you would want your students to probably have their microphone turned on. So one student in a conference session, right? You and that student. That student is going to have their microphone on so that you can hear what they're saying in case they're talking or someone is giving them answers off screen. You would want to make sure that their webcam is on so that you can see what's happening with them. Now, it's not going to be a 360 view. It's going to be really limited. And then you also would want them to share their screen so that you can also see what's going on their screen. So I would say proctoring through the FSCJ Assessment Center is going to be your best bet because there are proctoring technologies that go way up and beyond this and will be much easier for you because you can outsource that work to someone else. If you do choose to use Canvas conferences for proctoring, you are going to have to be in there with that student with your eyeballs on them. So that might be too much, but that's your choice.
And probably not feasible for a classroom of students, right? I mean, one-on-one, if an instructor and a student did it separately, but if they are all taking an exam at 3 o'clock on Wednesday,
so
that seems hard.
Breaking it out, that means
Yes.
you have 30 students in that class. It's an hour-long exam. That's 30 hours of your time proctoring each individual exam for each individual student. So it's possible, but because you have to do it one student at a time, I would not want to do that personally.
I had two other questions, but I'll go ahead and actually answer them. So I answered them on the chat, but I just want to kind of reiterate. The first question was, how many users can I have in conferences? And I just want to let everyone know that Canvas conferences suggest that no more than 100 users. And the other question, pardon me, that was the same question. Never mind.
All right.
Yeah, that's a repeat question. All right. That's all I have.
No, it's a great point. And I'm going to ask a question I actually don't know the answer to, but I remember it being asked. I know we knew the answer a minute ago or 6 months ago. If I'm teaching 3 English 101 classes and I want to do the same lecture to all 3, is that possible technically? And how would I do that?
Yes, thank you for asking that, Brandy. That's a really good question. This is a great time saver. So every Canvas conference has a guest link. So whereas I've already said that normally Canvas conferences are restricted to the students who are in the class, if you share the guest link, so invite a guest to join this meeting is right here. I'm clicking on that, and it's going to give me this long URL that I'm going to copy, right? This would be my suggestion. Go ahead and copy that, and then go to the other course where you want the students to participate in this conference. So your students who are in that class are going to know when you start the conference. In the other classes that don't have this specific conference session in them, just create an announcement and tell the students, online lecture tonight.
Perfect.
Again, let's spell things correctly. Share that link with them, right? Give them more information here about what's going to happen, but sharing that join link with them via an announcement means that they have the link to join that one conference so that you don't need to have the same lecture 3 times for your 3 offerings of the same class.
Perfect. I know that would be at least something that I would start with once I was a little more comfortable with conferences. Do it 1 time versus 3, or record it and share it with the others. So just a couple of options in delivery of the information that you're trying to share with your students. The next tool that I'm going to talk about real quickly is going to be Studio. Before I go to that, any other last questions about conferences, Thomas?
One other question was, is my storage when I do recordings for conferences shared with my capacity in my course?
Thomas, would you like to answer that one?
Yes, they are separate. So if we now have a 1 gigabyte storage for each course, but also please note that all of your recordings that you save from conferences are separate from your course size.
And I think storage in general is a good topic. I'm going to not go over it really in depth here, but we do have a resource on our blog that is basically a document just about maximum quotas. We were at a smaller storage size. Robin, just in light of everything that's going on, upped it to 1 gig for each course. If you're going to store a file, there's different ways to store things. And if you have any questions or if you hit any errors, feel free to either go to our blog and look at that document. It's under resources, or just shoot us an email and we can walk you through those storage issues if you stumble upon any. Anything in light of that, Robin, that is also helpful about storage?
I would say in the Online Now module, there's information about file storage there. If you do want to share PowerPoints and other Word documents with your students, there is a nice integration with Office 365 that would keep you from having to upload those huge PowerPoint files into your Canvas course, taking up a lot of space. I'm not going to go into that right now, but there is information about it in the online module on our blog, and please reach out to us if you have questions about any of that as well.
All right.
Can I also just add briefly, if you upload PowerPoint, if your intention is to upload PowerPoints to your students that have audio recorded on each slide, those can be very large files, and it might be a better idea to consider when they start talking about Studio, using Studio to record those presentations instead of uploading PowerPoint files with audio to your students.
Great point and great transition.
Awesome point.
So Studio, what I like to say is to make sure people kind of get what it is. It's like a YouTube that is just for our college. It is also already within Canvas. So I think anytime a tool is integrated already within Canvas, it makes it a little easier to access and use and just to put within the course as well. So Robin, if you'll show us while I'm talking, if you'll show us on your screen, where do they access Studio? And basically just keep in mind, Studio is there so that you can create, upload, or share videos. Doesn't even matter if you make them somewhere else, if you create the video using another application, or you've already had it saved on your computer and it's not made within Studio, you can still upload it here, so it makes it really easy to get into your course. Robin, do you want to give us a quick demo of Studio and why they would use it or how they would use it within their course?
Yes, and I think I've just shown you how to access Studio from the blue navigation bar. This again is going to be my recommendation to you. If you know that you want to specifically place a specific video in a specific course, you can go ahead and make the recording directly from the page where you want that video to be nested. So let's say I was kind of working on this little Raphael page a moment ago. I'm going to go ahead and edit that again. And then you'll see I have these same tools that I had before. If I click on this V and choose Studio, it will either give me the option to embed a video that I've already created, or I can record right from here using the onboard tools. So what I'd like to do is a screen capture. So it's going to prompt me to either download or open the screen recording app. So right now, given what we kind of have, you'll see it's going to kind of prompt me to want to record the screen. Given that Audrey is kind of taking up a lot of my screen real estate right now, what we would have would be an amazing lecture by Professor Ante. But normally that would be the way that you would want to do it, is you would actually be able to go ahead and record the lecture right here and then embed it. For the sake of just showing you something, let me go ahead and choose a video that I already have in Studio. So let's say I want to share with them, there's so many things. This one, you'll see I selected it just by clicking on it. And then I can either choose to allow my students to comment on the video or even allow them to download it if I want to. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and click embed. And that video is going to appear right here on the screen.
And a pro tip here that you don't need to worry about unless you're really ready to, analytics on the videos are really great. People can comment in line with the video and you can have a conversation right there while they're watching. And you can see if your students viewed 30 seconds of the video or watched the whole 2 minutes and 40 seconds. So, you could share this with all your faculty. Tell them the tips that you have, see how they're using some of the tools. Video quizzing is another really overachiever tool that we don't really need to talk about, but there's some really great functionality within Studio.
One thing that we should share with you though, video quizzing definitely for overachievers, but captions are a great thing for everybody to use if possible.
Did Robin Harif pay you to say that?
Yes, she did. So I've clicked right now on the captions tab here, and I'm gonna just really easily say, okay, I wanna go ahead and just caption this video in English, and I'm gonna request that. And then you'll see it's queued. So I'm guessing a lot of people are using this right now, so it may take a little while. Normally for a short video, this takes maybe a minute. It's really very quick. And what it will do is it's gonna go ahead and generate those captions for you, and then it will allow you to review them to make sure they're accurate, and then publish them. Now, we have resources online that go into more detail about how to do this, but just know, especially if you have students who may have specific learning needs in your class, you can caption videos for them so that they have the same access to lectures that other people have.
Can and should, since you paid me as well. Captions really just help everyone. I mean, I'm taking some information about like universal design learning and how not only those students who need it, but also just benefit from it. So in a class where students did not choose to take this online format, any opportunities that you can provide to them to help them in any way. Takes a couple of minutes, let's say, to caption the video, go in and edit it if necessary. Some of the maybe biology courses or some won't be as good, but the captioning tool itself is really great. It provides a really good first start. Okay, so that's kind of our synopsis of Studio. First, Audrey, do you have anything to add in regards to Studio?
Keep videos short. You know, if you're, instead of using conferences, if you're using Studio to record your lectures, even though you may have lectured for the full amount of time that your class meets, your students may have difficulty for sitting and watching a video that long, or with the time length of their access, depending on whether or not they're on their phone or on a computer, or whether or not, you know, they have other members of their family using their computers. So consider breaking up, if you're making Studio lectures, breaking them up into 15 or 20 minutes. And consider whether or not it would be possible to not necessarily have the full length of lecture, but have sort of an overview lecture and then additional things that you need the students to read or additional activities for them to do.
Agreed, and it's a great point. And Audrey, if you have anything else to say about this, basically, if you go in and teach a 3-hour class, is it something where a faculty member should expect to go and teach or lecture for 3 hours or provide 3 hours worth of content? How does a face-to-face in-person class transition to online format in terms of timing? Audrey, anything about that?
All right, my phone at home just rang. I think I got the gist of your question, though. Yeah, if you are trying to convey 3 hours worth of information to your students and you are a strong believer in lecture, there are things that you want to demonstrate, consider potentially how you can condense that down a little bit and break it into chunks for your students. There are other things that they can be assigned to do, whether it be watch additional videos that you've linked to, or read, assign readings from your textbook. Maybe even consider how much of your lecture just sort of recovers or highlights information that you ask them to read. I personally use maybe like 15, 20 minutes of lecture and then have my students participate in small group activities. So I'm considering how I can convert that into online for my face-to-face classes. Ask your colleagues in your discipline. This is what I traditionally do for my face-to-face classes. How are you planning to transition your course online? And see what some of your colleagues are doing in your discipline, so that you don't necessarily have your students sitting for 3 hours in front of the computer if they can't spend that time just sitting in front of the computer, or if that would be demanding of your time as well, recording all of those lectures.
No, it's a great point. Thank you for that. And it will transition us to our next topic. Thomas, I'm going to ask you for questions on Studio in 3 seconds, but the next thing that we'll talk about is support and other basically common questions that we've got throughout this week. I want to recap on what we've covered as of right now. Of course, the basics of Canvas. And then we walked you through our online guide. I've checked my email. We've got a few requests in there that people don't have it, so we will make sure everyone has access to that. And then we went through the recommended first steps, just taking it week by week. Lastly, we talked about the tools that we have available. Conferences and Studio are the two that we're going to push most and will be used the most as we transition to online. So next up, we're going to talk about support and then some of our common questions. And then we'll talk briefly about students and how their role will be impacted as well. Thomas, what questions do you have about Studio?
Can students access Studio, and also can they upload assignments via Studio?
Yes.
Yes.
I think another favorite feature of ours is, and Audrey kind of alluded to it earlier, you can upload audio or videos in a lot of areas. I started to say in all areas, but in a lot of areas of Canvas, you can provide text if that works well. You can provide video, you can provide audio. Anything else on that, specifics?
Yeah, so a couple of great little things about Studio. No storage limit. So make sure your videos are less than 10 gigabytes as you upload them. That's individual videos. But once they're in there, you can just load it up with all kinds of things. Same for your students. I personally love the idea of setting up a discussion forum and using video within the discussion forum. So your students have the exact same access to tools that you do, as I've just shown you. So as they're making discussion board posts, they can use that onboard recorder within the discussion. I can show you. We can just show you. So you're making a discussion, and when you're making the discussion itself, You have the ability to record a video as the prompt for the students using Studio. And when they respond to you, they're going to see this same interface, and they will also be able to use Studio to respond via video. Now, if you're going to do something like this in a discussion forum, we have many instructions for how to make discussion forums in the course, but you may also want to provide some really good instructions for your students if you want them to do this above and beyond action of responding via video. They can also submit assignments in Studio as well. Great for art classes, dance classes, any class where they're actually demonstrating a skill as opposed to just writing papers and doing more knowledge-based activities.
Perfect. Thomas, what's our next question?
Next question. Can the videos we upload in Studio be shared to Commons? Or is there a way to share videos in Studio en masse with people without having to go through each individual video?
Videos can be shared person to person within Studio itself. So that would be the way to do that. And really quickly, I will demonstrate this by sharing a video with Brandy. So let's see. This one, really exciting. I'm going to go ahead and click on this video and share it with Brandy. The video here is open within Studio. So I came over here to Studio and clicked on that, found the video itself, and now I'm going to find the share link. I'm going to click on the share link, and I can either distribute this link to individual people so that Brandy would be able to view the video, or if I want her to be able to add it to her course or something like that, I can simply type in the username, and literally everybody who has clicked on Studio and has a Studio account is going to appear here. So you may want to just do first and last name. There she is, Brandy Bleak. Clicking on her name. Do I want her to just be able to view it in her Studio account, or do I want her to be able to edit it in Studio? Making that choice, clicking update. And now when Brandy comes to her Studio account, she would also see this same video tile in her Studio account so that she can view the video at the same level that I can. Best way to share videos in Studio with people at FSCJ.
Perfect. Thomas?
So it's only Studio questions, but I've had a few requests if we could just really quick review the chat feature in Canvas for teachers who just want to use chat only and no video.
Sure.
Sure. So in each Canvas course, there is a link called Chat. And you can actually use this to chat with other individuals. It's a long-running chat, so you can't really shut it off. So that's something that's nice to know. But you can turn on alerts so that you can be monitoring this as your students are asking you questions or doing chats. And it's really easy. You can see right now I'm the only person online in this class. I'm just going to type my little message. We all like emojis? Heart eyes? Okay, send. All right, hi there. So there's my message. And other people can respond over time with messages as well. Now the instructor has the ability to moderate this. So if you see something that's inappropriate, hovering over it will produce this trash can so that you can delete it. But it just basically would consist of a long running course chat throughout the entire duration of your course.
Thank you, Robin. All right, Thomas?
That's all I have for Studio.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Okay, so we covered some of the tools. Now we're going to go to a really important area, support. So we've got all this information out there for you, and if you flow through it, then we've done our job correctly and very well, and we have. However, even if you're perfect and everything is flowing, you're going to run into some stumble. So what do you do then? We've got different areas that will be able to assist you depending on what your issue is. Let me go over a big picture of what the support looks like. I'm going to say there's a screen right now on your screen, sorry. But the first thing that we want your instructor, or excuse me, the student to do is to reach out to the instructor. I think it's very important that as we're kind of going through this, if your student has a question or issue, that they come to the instructor first. Before you get to that point, the instructors have to know what they're doing, right? So Canvas support is available 24/7 if you have an issue within Canvas. If you're not sure how to use something, you've looked at the guides or even looked at our resources, but something's not functioning as expected, reach out to Canvas support. There's a dedicated student line as well as a dedicated faculty line. The number that you see listed is the faculty line. The help icon within the blue navigation bar, in Canvas will allow you to reach the chat line as well. So you can chat live with an agent or you can call in. That's available, again, 24/7. So if we don't email you back at 3 a.m., you can reach out to Canvas support. Next up is the FSCJ Technical Service Desk. If it's something more like I'm not seeing my student listed, something that has something to do with my FSCJ or FSCJ specific areas, reach out or submit a ticket to the Technical Service Desk. Their hours are Monday through Thursday, 8 to 8, and Friday, 8 to 4, unless that changes. Of course, in this time that's very fluid, we will notify everyone if the hours are changed at any point, but they're staying around, so please let them know if you have any questions that they can assist with. Okay, and then the next up, this one is really important, the Faculty Development Specialist. Audrey, I'm going to let you chime in once I'm done with this little slide, but the Faculty Development Specialist and the information coming out from the Academy for Teaching and Learning, they are providing virtual office hours, basically. So if you're stuck and you need someone to walk you through whatever you're trying to accomplish there within Canvas, you can reach out to them via email. Their information was recently sent out. You can reach out to them through email and schedule some time to meet with them virtually. Same thing with our team. The Educational Technology team, of course, is available to assist you with anything we've talked about today, or if you have questions that we might not have addressed. Contact us via the EdTech email. You can also reach out to us individually, but I will say the best way is going to be through the EdTech email address. We all have access to it, so if one person is working on something else and it's a question someone else can answer, we're happy to do it there. Okay, Robin or Audrey, do you have anything in terms of support that you'd like to provide?
Audrey?
I can just add that we also have a list of faculty that the Academy emailed, and that has also been put on the Academy's news page for the Academy website. And those individual faculty have said that they are happy to answer questions. We've included their discipline next to their name and contact information. So if you are looking for someone in your discipline to help and maybe give you some guidance or at least give you an idea of what they're doing, you can always look at that list and reach out to these people.
Perfect. And Robin, anything specific on support? I mean, we're supporting. That's what we're doing.
I just want to point out the help menu within Canvas.
Thank you.
So that you all have a visualization of that. So it's way down at the very bottom of this blue bar. Clicking on help. This is new. Canvas provided this conference guides for remote classrooms. So this is a lot of information about Canvas conferences. Your students have this handy dandy ask your instructor a question button that you can encourage them to use as they're reaching out to you as the first line of contact. This will allow them to just send you a really quick message. Canvas guides, just kind of like a knowledge base of Canvas stuff. But here, Canvas support live chat for faculty. If I click on this, it's actually going to open up a chat right there. So that's the easiest way to communicate with Canvas. Here is FSCJ technical support.
Perfect. Let me also say that we have the phone line as well as the chat line available for Canvas support. A member of our team reached out recently in the last 2 days, and they were in a queue. Outside of this crazy time, there was no queue. You could call and get an answer pretty much right away. Keep in mind that everyone else in the nation is in the same boat, or maybe world, I don't know. There's a lot of people in the same situation that we're in that are reaching out to Canvas support. Not that they're not going to help, but it might take a little bit longer. So if you find that you call in and you're number 32 in the queue, feel free to use the live chat instead. I think an answer got within 3 minutes. Thomas is shaking his head yes, so within 3 minutes. So it might take a little longer, especially if it's during peak times, whatever their peak times are, but you have support through Canvas, and if that's not, if you need something right now, that's when you fall back on some of those other support lines. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is just kind of a throwing every question that we've got into a bucket, and the ones that came at the top, we're going to kind of try to answer as best as we can and point you to the resources that we have. We're going to start with Respondus, one of our favorite tools.
Yes.
It will actually come in handy in this time in a way that it might not have for some people in the past.
Yep.
Robin, do you want to quickly show where people can find more information and then give them a quick preview of what they can expect from Respondus?
Absolutely. So I would say first, within the Online Now guide, there is specific information about Respondus. It's titled Moving a Test from Word Document to Canvas. So clicking on this will allow you to access everything you need to know about Respondus. So just some quick tips about it. First of all, Respondus is PC only, which for me means I will not be showing you how to use it today because I'm currently on a Mac. But you can download it on your PC. You can download it directly from the faculty community by clicking on this link. So this will enable you to have both the software downloaded onto your computer and have the access key so that you can do this remotely from home. And then these videos would share with you exactly what you need to do to convert a Word document to a Canvas file. So for those who are totally unfamiliar with Respondus and have no idea what I'm talking about, the entire purpose of Respondus is to convert specific types of files that are commonly used for face-to-face testing, like paper documents, Word documents, text files, into a specifically formatted type of file that can be ingested by Canvas. So your purpose in using Respondus is to take that Word document of the paper test that you've given in your class in previous semesters, move that into Respondus, go through some steps that will allow you to format it for Canvas, and then it will literally allow you to import directly up into your Canvas course so that just by using Respondus, you take that paper-based file and move it right up into Canvas. It is a really great product. It is the only product that we are aware of that performs this function. I will tell you, it is sometimes a little bit frustrating if you're not used to it because it has very specific requirements for how your Word document must be formatted. All of those are covered in the online module. Please reach out to us if you reach a high frustration point with Respondus and we will work through it with you. Hopefully that will not happen, but I know it's happened to me before, so I will definitely be right there with you if you need help with Respondus. Please reach out.
And although I won't shout them out specifically, there are some Respondus power users that we might even kind of bribe to help other people out as well.
Yes.
Cheryl. All right, so before we move on to the next step, do you have any other questions that you want to throw my way right now, Thomas?
Just a question of what are the resources for students to reach out if they have technical issues?
Yep, so I'm going to answer the question, but I'm going to then get down to student resources, which is almost next. Students can, of course, reach out to the Canvas chat line or the phone. Anything specifically that we want to shoot for students, marketing has sent them information that we've provided as well as other departments have provided. They're in communication with them as much as they're in communication with the faculty and staff. The Canvas guides are helpful. Some students that want to find their own information. Robin, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, let me just share very quickly, again, in FSCJ Online Now, our course template, we have a little area of student resources. This is a link to a resource that we developed for all of our students as we move online to Canvas. It is a whole separate course with information about everything you would need to know in Canvas, how to use your calendar, how to update your profile, how to turn in an assignment, participate in a discussion, take a quiz, etc. So this is part of the FSCJ online template so that students can access it without you having to go out and find it. And then finally, this is in some ways a work in progress. We have this page also in FSCJ Online that provides helpful resources for online life. Here, for students, we have the information about how to access Canvas 24/7 Help, IT Help Desk. This is information about how they might reach out to the Student Contact Center without actually going to campus. Here, as the information becomes available, we'll be providing information about proctored testing. This is how they would reach Student Services for Disabilities without going to the office, and then also the LLC. If you're watching this and you have information that you'd like to have included in here, please let us know and we can go ahead and do that. And then finally, this is some kind of publicly available information about internet access so that if students need some help in getting home internet access, they can use these links to reach out to various internet providers and get that.
Okay, I'm going to cover 3 more things before we get to questions, and that's all we have on our outline. So let me tell you what we're going to talk about in the last couple of minutes. I really thought we were going to knock all this out in like 45 minutes or an hour, so I really want to just say thank you for staying in there. We've got a couple hundred people at least in watching, so thank you for your time. And then again, this will be recorded because we gave you a lot of information. On the student track, I want to talk about Student View and the Canvas app. I'm going to throw to Thomas, who is incredibly, who loves the Canvas app. And before I do so, I'm currently taking classes at UNF, and I will say I've done a lot of my work, maybe not the turning in or creating the assignments, but the discussion boards and the announcements from this faculty. Even before this time, I use the app way more than I actually log into the computer and use it. So making sure that you keep in mind your students are going to use the app for Canvas if they're aware of it, and if they're not, you should let them know. Some of the students might not have internet access or a computer, but they probably have a phone. And I might have just stole all of your great points, Thomas, but Thomas, what do you have to say about the app? I just think it's a really good thing that everyone should know about it.
So that was the actual first question I had for you, so I'm happy to go over it. The Canvas app, the student app, is fantastic. They can do all assessments or quizzes on there. They can do discussion boards. They can read all their content pages. It's very well organized. Now, anything like conferences or tools that are external, if it is present in your course menu, it will immediately take them to a browser link, and so they can still use it. So things such as conferences, although it can't be used inside the Canvas student app, the browser support for conferences is fantastic as well. So they can do any of the basic functions that they need to do to perform their assignments under the Canvas student app. So make sure they all know about it, because it really helps to help keep things organized.
And Thomas, just when we're in here, what about the teacher app? Anything that you want to throw in about that? I know
Right,
you've
the
worked with
teacher
it a
app
little bit.
is also very handy. The quote I will always say about teacher app is it has a little less functionality, as the tool is meant not for creation, but for facilitation. So it's great for using for grading and speed grader, or maybe editing some documents. But in terms of creating content, I would not recommend using that for the app, for the Canvas teacher app.
Just trying to provide all the resources that we have so that you can pick the ones that work best for you. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about in terms of student is student view. I think this is a really good point for someone who is just starting to build their course and they think they have it right, but just to verify and feel a little better about it, what can an instructor do to see what the student would view in their course?
Good question. All right, so I'm coming to my blank sandbox, and I'm just going to scroll down to show you. It's got all the FSCJ online content as well as this module. On the home page, there is a link called Student View. A button. Go ahead and click that button. And now it's going to show you what a generic student is going to see in this course. Now, notice that all of that faculty content is gone because it's not published. And my week 1 module is also gone because it is not published at this time. So all my students would see is the one published module that is available for them. And you'll see as I'm in student view, it's pink like this to let me know, and then I can leave student view at any time. You can click around anywhere within the course while you're in student view, so it's a great way to really get a look at the student experience. And also, just make sure you've published everything that you intend for your students to see. If it's not published, they're not seeing it.
Can we go ahead and publish one module that is not and show how that process works?
Sure. I've published this module. You'll notice that published everything that's nested within the module automatically. Now I'm going to come back to student view. And you'll see that now this whole module is appearing for my students.
Perfect. It's a really simple tool, but so valuable in a time where you're not familiar with what you're doing, so that you can see what your students are supposed to see before they get in there and see it, right?
Yes.
So you can just publish the modules or different sections that you're ready to work on, see how it looks, go back and unpublish them, and then allow your students in. So work with the student view just to make sure that you have everything ready.
Can I point something out really quickly? Because this frustrated me endlessly when we started. If your course is not published, student view does not work because technically your students cannot see the course. So just want to keep that in mind. And you can always unpublish it when you're done doing your student view.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm going to talk about one more big point here, or a common question that we've got, and then we're going to kind of ask for any other questions from Thomas, and then so if you have any other questions, throw them into Thomas now. Robin, 2 main points with third-party tools. One, if I use a third-party tool, how do I put it in a very broad, generic way? And then also, just as a FYI, third-party tools are making some changes, some of them are, some of them aren't, to allow more people to use them in ways that might be helpful at this time. I'm going to do a big picture view of this, in that it's definitely good to see what resources are out there. I know a couple of faculty members have shared resources in different ways, and we're also going to open a discussion board. So if you hear of anything that could be helpful to your peers, share that in any way that you can. Look out for those resources. Third-party tools, publisher tools, for example, are a really good resource at this point. If you're familiar and want to go that route, how would I implement it, and what are they? Maybe let's start there.
A third-party tool refers to a publisher's resource that is integrated with Canvas. So currently we have integrations already set up with Pearson, MyLab and Mastering, Lumen, the list is kind of endless, Wiley, VitalSource, etc. So we have a list of them available in the Canvas faculty community. They are usually paid tools with the exception of Lumen and VitalSource. So please make sure you're aware of what the cost will be for your students and how your students will access it, because even if it's integrated with your Canvas course, your students are going to have to pay to access that material unless that specific publisher is currently doing some kind of a special free linking of resources. So make sure you clear that with them, with the publisher, before you work on the linking in Canvas. Now, what I have done as I've been chatting with you is I've gone to the settings menu within my course, and you'll see that this serves a dual function. I can use this to change what's available on my side course navigation. So to do that, I would move things that are up here down. Like maybe I don't want this to be available for me or my students, so I would move it down. The second function of this menu is that it allows you to enable those third-party tools. So if you are planning to use MyLab and Mastering, the first step would be to move it up into the Canvas navigation area. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move MyLab, and we're going to move Smarter Proctoring up. Okay. Here we are on the navigation tab within the settings menu of Canvas. Once I have made any changes that I want to in terms of disabling or enabling specific links on the course navigation menu, I'm going to go down to the bottom of the page and click Save. All right, and now you'll see that these are appearing on the menu. So if I'm going to enable MyLab and Mastering, I would click on this link, and then it will kind of walk me through the process of integrating my Canvas course with MyLab or Mastering. Now, notice that I have no special rights or privileges here within MyLab or Mastering unless you're paying for these services or have worked out an arrangement with Pearson. You do not have access to them. So one thing that's good to know is it would be best not to reach out to the two of us or to Thomas for help with MyLab or Mastering courses. You should reach out to their help and support. Now, their help and support is available right here as you've integrated the tool, right? So if this tool is available, this is even before you get started with integrating the MyLab and Mastering content with Canvas, you do have help and support available here. Please direct those questions about those third-party tools to the third-party help and support.
Definitely. All right, we've got a couple of emails coming in, but I'm going to throw to Thomas for some questions. Let me just say it's 11:48. I can sit here all day, but we've got a lot of people working here and we're supposed to be at home. So I'm going to try to wrap this up by noon. So let's just do a Q&A until, a couple minutes before noon. What you got, Thomas?
So the first question I'll go ahead and answer real quick about the Canvas student and teacher apps. It is compatible with both Android and Apple devices. So you can find that on the App Store on iOS, and you can also find it on the Play Store. So just make sure you can download it from both sets. The first question is, there is a notice at the top warning that there may be a limit to usage for conferences. What if I schedule something and everyone is using it?
Great question. I'm going to do the first part, and then I'm going to throw it to one of you guys. Keep in mind, again, I said this a little bit, everyone is in the same situation. So conferences, as well as Canvas, was not expecting this huge influx of users. I'm going to take a step back and say Canvas has a 99.9% uptime until recently. They did a move to add some more servers, and the system went down for, I think, like 20 minutes or 30 minutes, which to them is the world, right? So keep in mind that everyone is kind of going through this process together. If you get to an area in which the system is slow, or if conferences isn't functioning how it should, don't freak out. Keep in mind, again, everyone's there, and we're all going to try to find a way to get through it. What you can do is, in the moment, I'm going to let you answer, but if you want to have a backup, WebEx is when we're going to say this might be a great time to know both of the tools. If you already got conferences down, try to just play around in WebEx to see if that is an option that you can use. WebEx, Cisco WebEx is a huge company. Not to say the big blue button is smaller, but I think it is. Robin, anything you want to kind of throw in on that note?
There is no solution here. I mean, I would say when you're frustrated, it's hard to be patient, but that's honestly the only thing that we can do at this point. You know, you may reach out to your students, let them know that you're going to cancel that meeting for this week and possibly switch to another format. Maybe that's the time when you would record a lecture for the students and upload it because you're not able to use conferences to meet face-to-face and have that kind of contingency available. I really don't know, because if you think about the fact that conferences is higher ed only, right? So they have a smaller user base than WebEx, sure, which is going to be used by also corporate clients. I wouldn't feel comfortable giving you any recommendation about one over the other, but I think you may find in time, if you're comfortable using one or the other, you may like one or the other better, and you should stick with that.
I'll make the recommendation to use conferences if you're in Canvas and have not used either one all day, because you're already there. What we're trying to just say is if one is down, maybe have a backup ready if you want to. And then otherwise, my biggest suggestion is to email us so that we can communicate it. If you experience an issue where it's down, maybe it's down for a minute, we won't communicate that. If it's down for a longer period of time and you're having issues, it might be a place where then we need to send something out so other instructors don't experience the same issue. And in that case, we could then share some information on the other backup tools that are available. All right, Thomas, what else?
All right, next question. Will you explain how to turn on the timing capability in case clock programs will be able to utilize distance learning and will be able to document the time?
That's a great question, even outside of this circumstance. Robin?
So there is no sort of native timing feature within Canvas. I would say we've definitely been working with the clock programs to decide how exactly this would function in general when we're not under emergency circumstances. One thing that we have thought of in terms of making sure that we're accurately recording the amount of time that clock students are present within a Canvas course is that you would make everything into a Canvas quiz, as crazy as that sounds. If you have a reading assignment for students, make it a quiz question, and then just have it a quiz question that has no answer. That will allow you to record the amount of time that students are actively engaged in working in Canvas coursework. We may need to follow up on this a little bit for clock users. That is the best way to make sure that you're keeping accurate time of the amount of time that your students are actively working on coursework, which I know is a requirement for you all. So if you want to delve into that a little bit more deeply, please reach out to EdTech and I can expand on this a little bit more.
And on a similar note, just something I thought of, I'm going to try to get this in quickly. If a group of science faculty, math faculty, dance faculty want to talk amongst themselves or share resources, what are the best ways to do that?
So we've made a series of communities for specific faculty groups that are just exactly like the faculty community in terms of the way that you can share resources, but it would only contain the faculty or the departmental staff so that you can talk about issues that are just relevant to you. Reach out to EdTech and just request the creation of a faculty community. That would allow you to share resources. You know, like for example, if Brandy and I both teach English and she made an awesome quiz, I can then just grab that out of that community and use it in my class as well. So that power of community can definitely be leveraged in Canvas by setting up those individual communities for individual disciplines.
All right,
Let
Thomas,
us know.
next question.
Next question. When I use the inbox mail, it does not go to my FSCJ email. How can I?
Great point. Something that I will quickly cover, and there's a lot of resources available. Robin, if you don't mind pulling up the inbox screen or the notification settings preferences. Something that you need to be aware of in Canvas is there is an inbox which you can communicate back and forth through with your students. That is where your students already are and will most likely reach out to you through your inbox. What you should spend a couple of moments doing as you're getting started in Canvas is visit the account button at the top where your picture probably isn't yet, but should be so that your students know who you are or see your face. And then you can go to notifications at the top, select how often and in what ways you want to be notified when certain activities occur within Canvas. Robin, are there any that you would definitely spend a moment on? That's my next question. I'm going to jump ahead, and if you'll scroll to the bottom, answer the question by saying the conversations, the discussions, the ways to communicate are here. The one that you want to pay attention to is the one that will then that will notify you when there is a message sent to you. A conversation message is the inbox or the communication method of Canvas. So make sure you have that sent to, I guess, right away would be my recommendation. Robin, anything on that?
I would say, honestly, if you're new to Canvas, I would go ahead and just turn all of these on for now. It will probably drive you crazy for a couple of weeks because you're going to be receiving email notifications all the time. And then you can scale back as you go. You'll see that the checkbox means you're going to receive a notification immediately as a due date is changed, as a grading policy is changed, things like that. This little clock means you're going to just learn about those every day if they happen on that day. This would be receiving a weekly summary, and this would be do not send me anything. You'll notice that I'm a very bad example, and I have it set to do not send me anything for a lot of classes because I am enrolled in a lot of classes. But if you're new to Canvas, go ahead and just check them all, and then as you figure out what you're being notified of and you don't want it, you can change those settings.
So to fully kind of go back a step, if a student emails you, it will go to your Canvas inbox. If you have the notification sent to forward to your, let's say, a personal email address or your college email by default, as long as that is checked, you will also get that notification in your FSCJ email address. The notification will include the message your student sent, and you can reply to it, but just keep in mind that all communication does still remain in Canvas as well, so you can go to your Canvas inbox if it's most convenient.
If you're having an issue with receiving notifications in a way that you think is appropriate, the first thing that you would want to do is go to the notifications page and make sure that the email address for you, the college email, is correct and that it's set to notify you for everything. You'll see I also have my personal email, SMS set up, and then also this would be push notifications so that my Canvas app would send me notifications as things happen. You can play around with all of these things, but if you are having an issue, make sure that this email address is correct and that you're receiving all of your notifications. And then if you find that this email address is not correct, you're going to come over here to settings. And your FSCJ email is not editable by you. So if that's wrong, let us know and we will fix that. But you can also add your personal email address here as well as SMS down here if that's something you're into.
All right, we've got 3 minutes. I'm going to answer 2 questions and I'm going to ask Audrey something. So we got a minute each. Audrey, is there anything on notifications or anything else really that you'd like to chime in before we kind of wrap up?
I would definitely recommend that you show your students how to set up their notifications if you're able. That way, face-to-face students who are not accustomed to regularly checking in online will be more aware if they're getting push notifications from their cell phones or if they're getting emails in their student email that you are trying to communicate with them or that they need to be aware of something that has changed in your course.
Thank you. Thomas, we've got a couple of questions. I'm going to take 2 more.
Okay, 2 more questions. I prefer to teach in groups and present their findings in the end. What is the best way to accomplish this?
Canvas has a group function in each course shell. So since we have like a minute left, I will not be sharing that with you at this time. But if you'd like more information about that, please email EdTech and I will send you some great information about how to do that and how to follow it through the whole course.
And a good quick tip right here in my 3 seconds is if you have a question on Canvas and groups, go to Google and type in Canvas Groups Guides, and it'll show you a guide for that topic. There are so much information within the Canvas guides, and they've broken down each topic into really small chunks and really digestible. All right, Thomas, last question. Let's make it a great one.
The last question is actually asking you to repeat something because we haven't seen it throughout the presentation. Sure. Will you please repeat where to find the Canvas faculty community page and checklist, and also where to find the video after this?
I think that's a great wrap-up question. A couple of things. So I'm going to let Robin demo where the content will live. within that, Robin, while you're demoing, can you show the discussion board? Because we're going to encourage people to continue this discussion as we move forward. But after we close up here, we're going to make people work some more. Mark Hubbard over here is standing next to me. Him and his team, Robin Hariff, and everyone else who has been a part of this is going to work to turn this around very quickly. So Curtis as well, and Michael, since I'm naming everyone, thank you to everyone. They're going to work really hard to get this turned around. That just means kind of some editing and making sure we look lovely throughout the broadcast. The lighting is perfect. So as we wrap this up, we will post that within the discussion board that I'm going to let Robin show you. And anytime that we post anything, we try to share it on our blog as well. So in the next couple of days, we'll take all of this content and kind of link to it from our blog as well. Robin?
All right, Canvas faculty community. It should be here on your dashboard. If it's not on your dashboard, please check the courses menu to see if it's been pulled off of your dashboard. And then you can use those stars I shared with you to move it back up onto the dashboard. If you don't see it anywhere, email us and I will make sure you have access to it. Canvas faculty community, if you click on it, there's a ton of useful stuff in here, training resources, information about third-party tools, right? All of this stuff. One thing that I'm just going to point out is this is something we've had long running. It's a Canvas Q&A discussion board. So if you click on that, you're going to see just tons and tons and tons of questions that people have asked over the time that we've been in Canvas with answers. You can ask any question that you want here, and some of your peers will answer it, and if they don't, we will. So you can see there's all kinds of things, right? Please use this to ask your questions to a general audience. Still in the Canvas faculty community, FSCJ Online Now is the very first thing. Clicking on this, again, is going to give you access to the course template that we've been talking about for the last 2 hours. And then momentarily, whenever our department is able to get the work done, this FSCJ Online Now webinar will appear here. And it's also going to have a Q&A forum under it so that if you have questions that are specific to the webinar, you can go ahead and ask them there as well. So right now, if you were to click on this, you're not going to get anything because it's unpublished. Going back to that unpublished thing. But once it's complete, we'll go ahead and publish it and have it available for you. All right. Here are resources for the next week for communicating with your students. More training on everything for those who want to dive deeper or who need a little more help. And then here is our printable quick start guide that you can just go ahead and download and print out at home. Keep it by your desk to help you while you're working in Canvas.
All right, faculty community and the first link. That's where you want to go to get that guide or template that we've shared. I just want to say thank you to everyone and everyone that is about to embark on this online journey that didn't sign up for it. You got it. It's really easy. You just got to take it one step at a time. And we're all here to support you. So reach out to us, and us being the college, anyone who is in a position that can help, your dean, your peer, your tech team, the faculty development specialist. Audrey, thank you so much for joining us. I think it was very valuable to have that instructor perspective. Robin and Thomas, of course. Audrey, last word?
I would just emphasize to keep it simple. Like, there are a lot of tools that you can use, but for the most part, it needs to be easy for you so that you can explain it to your students.
That's it. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching, staying with us for 2 hours, and let us know how we can help. We'll be working from home as you are, but we'll be ready and willing to help in any way we can. And let us know what resources we need to share on a broader scale as well. Thank you so much, and good luck.